Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's development stream. I am Orqata, and we are going to be working on Composr CMS. It's been quite a while since I've last streamed. It's been about 10 days, maybe a little bit more than 10 days. Last time I streamed was it February 27th? I think it was, yeah, it was February 27th. We did it, the special TGIF show tribute to a family member who passed away in 2025. Anyway, update on that. Unfortunately, due to some in real life circumstances, I will not be able to stream on a consistent basis this month, and probably for April and May as well. My financial situation is currently not the greatest, and with tax season coming up, I will probably have to pay quite a bit in terms of income tax. I got to pay Uncle Sam his fair portion of what you earn, am I right? So for those reasons, I don't have a consistent streaming schedule for March or April, and I will probably, I possibly won't have one for May either. So the way that will work is that basically I'll just be streaming when I can stream. There will probably be no prior announcements to most of the streams that I do. However, you can, when I do stream, it'll usually be at night around this time. So it'll usually be 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So when I do stream, at least you can kind of have an idea about what time I will be streaming if I do stream. But that's the whole thing, when and if I do stream, because I will, for the next couple of months, I will not know. I might stream for 3 times during a particular week, and then the next week I won't stream at all. It really depends on my work situation, my work schedule, my finances, and everything like that. However, if you enjoy the type of streams that I do and the content that I produce, you can leave a donation. There is a Stripe link on my Twitch profile in the About the tab, or you can subscribe to my Discord server. You can join the Discord server and subscribe for a monthly fee, and you get some perks in return for your subscription. Your financial contributions will therefore help me out financially, and in turn I'll be able to stream on a more consistent basis. So with that being said, announcements out of the way, let's talk about what we are going to be doing today. I did want to also mention, sorry, but the colony scores are broken today. They were working just fine before I started the stream. Normally I would just restart the particular component and mix it up, but there's a bug. If I disable the particular component in order to refresh it, then I won't be able to re-enable it again. So I had informed Mixitup about the bug, so hopefully Mixitup will come out with the fix. But unfortunately, because of that bug within the Mixitup software, I am not able to restart the colony scores overlay, so you won't get to see what the scores are. But if you want to see what the scores are, you could go to Orqata.live. They're up on the website. And every viewer gets placed in one of 4 random colonies. Certain actions will earn the points for that colony, and at the end of every quarter, which is actually coming up here soon, there will be a reward dropped in the Discord server for the people within the colony who had the most points during that quarter. So you have until March the 24th to earn points for your colony. On March 24th, a winner will be declared, and then a reward will be dropped in the Discord server for that colony, and you will have 1 week from that point to claim the reward. And then on April 1st, everything gets reset. So basically all of the points for the colonies get reset, and then everybody gets placed into a new colony. And then we repeat the process again for the next 3 months. Alright, with that out of the way, let's talk Composr CMS. So it's been even longer since we did a development stream with a Composr CMS. It's been probably at least 2 months, maybe longer. So we were working on the statistics system, I believe, last time we did a stream with Composr CMS. So one of the primary issues that I am having with getting version 11 beta 9 out is that we have a fundamental problem with how the statistics system works. That's basically your analytics. The original way that the statistics system stored data was it would store large blobs of data, serialized blobs, into the database. Now those blobs could get really large in row size, and so when we try to load them back up, it could trigger a PHP out of memory error, and then it would break the entire statistics system. So we are working on a different method for storing statistics. I'm not quite there yet. What I originally tried was doing a flattening of the data. So instead of storing huge blobs for each bucket and each time interval, we're storing a single data point for each row. Now that, of course, would result in millions more rows in the database, but that would also mean a lot more effective data management. So when we go into the statistics system in Composr, we're only loading up the data that we need, and we don't run into at the memory errors. And the nice thing is, because each data point is its own row, we could do batch processing, which makes it even more efficient. However, we ran into a situation. There are way too many rows in the database. And the reason why is because we are processing, for each data point, we're creating a row in the database, not just for the data point, but for each pivot or time interval in that pivot applicable to that data point. So a single data point could have 10 or more rows, for example, in the database. And it could just it could get really large. In fact, it got so large that just a site with moderate traffic had a statistics table that was 9 gigabytes in size. It's excessive. And I think that's roughly equal to about, I think it was 90 million rows of data. So that's a lot. We're going to try and reduce that. Instead of storing a row for not only each data point, but for each pivot within that data point, we're not even going to use pivots or pivot intervals within the database. We're going to convert the structure of the statistics model so that we're just using timestamps. So each data point has one singular row in the database, and we'll do all of the pivot calculations during runtime in PHP instead of using storage to do those calculations. Now, this will mean that the statistics will use a little bit more CPU in order to run those calculations. and then it may be slightly slower to load the graph, but I honestly don't think it'll be that bad. I think PHP should be able to handle it fairly well. Now, will this make a notable difference on size in terms of the table? I estimate that it will cut the size of the table by about 7/8, I would say. So it'll still probably be about a gigabyte or two for a moderate traffic website, but I still think that's a lot better than 10 gigabytes. And also by simplifying it, we can get rid of a couple of intermediate steps involved in calculating these statistics. Before we jump into that though, one thing that I fixed between the previous stream a couple of months ago and this stream was an issue with there's also another issue within the statistics system. So I don't know if you recall, but a few months ago, I may or may not have talked about this on stream. A few months ago, I was experiencing issues on my server. Composr.app, the website for Composr CMS, was experiencing what I thought at the time to be a DDoS attack, with a bunch of aggressive bots crawling the site. I'd have 700 bots, 800 bots, sometimes even 1,000 bots on the site at one point or another within, I think it was a period of an hour, at any given 1 hour period, which was quite a lot. Well, okay, it really wasn't all that much. I mean, if you think about the grand scheme of things and how much traffic large websites can get, it really isn't all that much, but it was enough to cripple my server. And at that time, I just thought it was a DDoS attack. But come to find out, it wasn't a DDoS attack. It was just inefficient database indexing. So there's another table within the Composr CMS database called just stats. Now, this differs from what we were just talking about. The analytics is in a whole separate table, and that's what is used to generate graphs of, different things like demographics and actions that have been taken on the site, things like that. Stats, however, I'm going to move Livinity over here for a moment so you can see the code better. Stats, however, is just the basic tracking of each hit that you get on the site. So like the member IP address, user agent, the browser, things like that. The basic stats tracking. But each hit or each request to the site would log another row into the stats table. And as you can imagine, the stats table would get very big very quickly. Even for Composr.app, which cleans out records after, I think I have it set to 90 days if I recall correctly, it still has about the 7 or 8 million, million records in there at any given point. It's not much, but there's a couple of queries that happen in the site that look up different things within the stats table, like where this one was the problematic one. On pretty much every request, we're trying to get a history of the member's user agents by doing the query within the statistics table. But we did not have an index on it, and so what would happen is those particular queries would take upwards of 1, 2, 3 seconds each, and create a massive database bottleneck, especially with CPU use, to make that query. And that was ultimately what was choking my server when I had all of those bot requests. It was inefficient indexing on the database. So for beta 9, I revised the indexing for the statistics table. So this was the primary culprit right here, but I identified a few other culprits too. This one could also run slow, but luckily it's not a query that runs frequently. So I added an index to that. So basically we're searching for, this is used when we're trying to detect tracking codes used by different sessions. We also might be doing a lookup to see what IP addresses a certain member has been detected as using. This is particularly used by the action log system and also by the warning system. And then we have just a general IP address search as well. Those were also making a particular bottleneck on the database, especially when you go into viewing the list of active and online users at any given point. So even with just this index, sure, that helped a majority of the site. But when you go into viewing active users, that page ended up taking so long that you get the bad gateway error. And I identified that it's because those were also querying stats for member IP addresses. So we needed an index, these two indexes. And the nice thing is, by adding these two indexes, not only did we speed that page up, but we also sped the action log page up. We sped up the investigate user tool. We sped up the page for viewing a member's profile and warnings. So it sped up quite a lot. This was I was actually impressed by how much faster Composr CMS is now running, thanks to these new indexes that I created in the database. And I've been also monitoring the load averages of the server. Prior to these changes, if I were to have about 200 or more guests, that would create a load average of about 4 or 5. Now keep in mind, this is an 8-core server. There's not very many cores in this server. So 4 or 5 is over half of that. So already we are getting close to the limit of the server with that. But by implementing these indexes, the load average dropped to about 1.2 to 1.5. It's a significant drop. So I'm glad I made these changes, and I think these changes are going to benefit Composr sites in the long run. Now another change that I made that I haven't tested yet, and we're going to be doing that today, is in the upgrader. I'm going to close out of Vivaldi because Vivaldi is a resource hog. So is Chrome. We're going to go, I usually switch to Firefox when I'm streaming because for some reason Firefox works a lot better than any Chromium based web browsers when I'm streaming. I think it has to do with the fact that Firefox uses a different rendering engine than Chromium does. I've noticed that, for as many features and nice things that Chrome has, its rendering engine sucks ass. Because I have a lot of issues with any apps or browsers that are Chromium based. Like if I have too many Electron-based applications running at one time, then my computer starts getting sluggish and things start crashing. Even though my RAM is perfectly fine, I mean, it's about 60% use, but I mean, that's a little high, but that shouldn't be high enough to cause crashes. My CPU is fine. My GPU is okay. So I can only chalk it down to the Chromium engine, rendering engine, causing the issue. Because it's usually when I'm running Chromium-based applications, and it's those applications that crash. So anyway, that's my rant. So I switch over to Firefox during stream when I can. So what we're going to do is I did a little change in the upgrader. I don't know if this is going to work just yet. And that's what we're testing right now. But this is what I did. I'm trying to implement the ability to run certain steps of the upgrade process in your terminal. So essentially what it the idea is that a web app, the web interface can be very limiting in terms of running the upgrader, especially if you have a server that has safeguards and timeouts and things like that. But if you run certain steps like the database upgrade, which is notorious for taking a long time, if you run that in a terminal using the PHP client, it doesn't have any of those web server limitations because it's not running via web server. It's just running via PHP natively. So I'm trying to implement that, implement the way that you can run that step in the terminal. So what we're going to do, we need to test this because I wrote code for it. Here, I'll show you real quick. But basically, I changed the script around a little bit. So we have an isClient function, which determines if you are running PHP through the client or through a web server. If you're running it through a client, there's this new function right here. Currently, it just has a DB upgrade, or only supports database upgrade. But I'm also thinking about adding the ability to for you to perform the InnoDB upgrade if you're running the old MyISAM database engine. And that will be very handy. Because then, because it's a pretty intense and resource intense process that takes a while. I apologize, I got a little phlegm in my throat. So I wanted to eventually migrate or implement the ability to do the InnoDB upgrade through command prompt as well. But for starters, we have the database upgrade, and like I said, I do need to test this to make sure it works. So you have the screen. Something's not right. Did I not finish this? Oh, I don't think I finished it. I did not finish it. I need to add this line in here. So we need to create a lot of noise going on. I apologize. We need to create a new language string here. What is it? Upgrader. Database upgrade complete. We'll create the new language string here. And we will put that in our file. Let's see, upgrade that INI. So upgrade their database upgrade. And I'll just stick it right here. But don't I already have a success message for this? What is going on? Sorry, I thought somebody must have allowed the bass or something going on outside. I don't know. I'm actually, since I'm reaching a point where I'm having a lot of breaks in my speech, we're going to pull up a lo-fi generator or our background music. Because this is less likely to give me any issues on YouTube. So we'll go ahead and pull that up and have that playing in the background. Okay. Let's see. So we have our string. I guess I don't really see this any string. Yeah, we'll do another double new line after that, then we'll call it done at that point. But anyway, so essentially the way that this works is that when you do upgrade through the website, it runs in steps, okay? So it'll upgrade one thing and then the request will finish and then there'll be an automatic refresh through a button to continue to the next step and then the next step and the next step and so on. And this is to help reduce the chance that you will run into, like a server timeout or something like that. But if we execute it through command line, we don't need to run it in steps because command line essentially bypasses those timeouts. So I designed the upgrader to not run in steps, to continue basically by recursively calling itself again, except at the next offset when it finishes something. And then it just continues. Oh, actually, we have the database specific success. Oh, we do have a string right here. What is this string? We already did have a string. Okay. But it didn't have a period at the end of it. Alright, so let's just use that instead of creating new language string. We use what we already have. And we'll undo our changes to upgrade.ini. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to test, see how far we've gotten along here in terms of the script to see if it works or not. So we're going to go into terminal here. I think that's because this is not in my path. So, but I think I need to, don't I need to double escape this? Anyway, PHP is not in my syspath, so I can't just simply run the PHP command. I have to type the full path to PHP. Okay, it's giving me invalid command. So we know that the... Whoa. This is... The heck? Why is it doing that? There's a weird bug by, I think it's just a weird bug by VS Code. Anyway, it's given us invalid command, which means that, yeah, oh yeah, there's a, yeah, it's, dang it, VS Code. Okay, let's just, let's do this in PowerShell. Oh, now I don't have the path to PHP in there. Okay, as I was saying, it does execute the script, but we're getting invalid command. We have to figure that out. So what is happening is we get to upgrader, we are executing upgrade script apply, but we're getting this. We should be getting this. Let's just echo out type and see what happens. Oh, it's... Okay, I see. It's, the file. This needs to be 1. Okay, so now it gets the prompt, which is what we wanted. It's supposed to stop. There's supposed to be a new line there. Let's test abort. Abort works as it should. That's good. But let's fix that. There's supposed to be a new line. Yeah, it's supposed to... Strip HTML. Oh, this is probably it. That's supposed to happen outside of the strip HTML function. So that's probably why it didn't go on to a new line. Okay, so it's supposed to prompt you saying, Composr is now performing database upgrades and steps. This should take some time, especially if doing a minor or major version upgrade. I suspect, hang on. I suspect... Oh, no, okay, we are doing it right. We're not supposed to hard code in the name of the software because the software could be rebranded. So that's good. Now performing database upgrades and steps. This could take some time, especially if doing a blah, blah, blah. Gets a prompt, and then let's see what happens when we hit enter. Okay, we get an error. At first I thought that wasn't doing anything, but we get an error. Critical error failure, maximum execution time on line 71. Okay, so apparently there is what? So it's complaining about this. I was told that you do fgets to maybe I have to assign it to a variable. I don't think that's the case, but we can try that. Oh, that That was what we needed to do. But now we're in an infinite loop. Okay. So we got to figure that out. So it started the upgrade, but it triggered an infinite loop in here. Offset plus plus. So we run upgrader db upgrade on 0, which triggers no critical version specific upgrades were needed. Version specific upgrades. Do we get the dot dot dot? Yes. So it's running that, and then no upgrades are necessary, but then it should have executed offset plus plus and gone to the next step, but it didn't do that. It repeated the same step. I wonder if we can't do that. I wonder if we have to do +1. Yep. Okay. I see what's happening here. Because this is not passed by reference in upgrader db upgrade, the plus plus is incrementing the value of offset by 1, but it's happening after its current value is being passed in back into upgrader db upgrade as a parameter. I wonder if we can fix this with the plus plus at the beginning of the variable. Yeah, we could do that. So we just need to fix this so that the plus plus is moved to before the variable. And then this is a specific case where the offset is, oh wait, no, we need it right here. But if we do, okay, so upgrade the add-ons does pass offset in as passed by reference. Upgrade the add-ons. Oh, so we don't need that. This is the non-client version. I'm looking at the wrong section of code. Okay. Let's see what we get now. Okay, well, that was fast, but of course we're not actually doing any upgrades, so there's nothing to upgrade. But let's see. Database, let's see. Converser did not need to be upgraded. Bleeding edge. Database query failed though. At default long text duplicate entry. Okay, so this is what I was worried about. Config C default. Okay, so I was worried at first that if I were to implement client, if I were to implement the ability to upgrade a site via the client, that if there were any minor errors like these, for instance, that it would completely bail out the whole process. When it shouldn't. It should just spit out, basically a warning. But it didn't, so that's good. I think we could fix this, though. let's I'm thinking about it. Yeah, let's make this a little more elegant. We're going to find. Oh, I guess it's hard coded in. Do they all? Yes, they all use failed query echo. So we'll go to definition. It logs error, substitute query message. Let's add the isClient check. We'll call it the warning. Put the message in there. We'll just add another new line just to be on the safe side. And then this has to be an else condition because we don't want this to echo if we're in CLI. And then we also have a failed the query exit, which just triggers fatal exit. I'm looking here, echo, evaluate the echo. So this is a specific function within the temp code that basically echoes out different output. So we evaluate, we flush safe, return. Okay, we need to look for an echo statement somewhere. We have evaluate. The echo might actually be, okay, the echo might be in the code. Oh, wait, we have cached output. Oh, maybe CMS flush safe is what does it. That could be. I wonder, I have no idea how PHP client handles buffers like that. So I'm not going to worry about that right now. I mean, having messy output is better than having no output for errors. So we need to do an actual upgrade test. Like we need to try and upgrade something to see if it works. So we're going to trick Composr into thinking that one of our modules is out of date. The question is, which one? We could do admin stats because that's the one that we've been working on. So we will we'll leave no, that needs to be left alone at 12. However, we need to go into database and trick it into thinking that we have version 11 installed. It's always pretty slow when it first loads. But if I were to have tried to load that in Chromium, my computer would have probably jittered. Okay, so admin stats. We need to trick Composr into thinking that we have version 11 installed. And then that should trigger an upgrade of that module when we run this script. And it does. Cool. That actually is working a lot better than I thought it would. I thought we would have several, because I am not very proficient with the PHP client. So I was fully expecting this to not work at all when I first coded it, but it is actually working from the looks of it. Let me just confirm to make sure that we are now back at the version 12. We are. And as you saw, it went right into the next step of the upgrade process. Which means that the code that I wrote to prevent it from taking upgrades from breaking in between each upgrade step seems to be working just fine. What I want to do though, let's run it through the web interface to make sure that we didn't break anything. So as you can see, it runs each step individually and does an automatic refresh via JavaScript on the proceed button as it goes through each step. That's what it does when you do it through the web interface. Now I need to figure out why it keeps trying to add that in. Alter table, add see default long text. I think I have something incorrect somewhere. So see default long text. There should be an upgrade the script somewhere. It should be an upgrade DB upgrade. There it is. So this is legacy beta 9.1.7 if upgrade from is less than 1.766.443. Is it? Oh, it might be. Oh yeah, because beta 9 hasn't been released yet, so all of this code is running because our timestamp hasn't been updated since we haven't released beta 9 yet. Okay, that makes sense. And I mean, we've already run this, so it's just throwing an error saying that this already exists. All right, nice. So we've tested and confirmed that those work. I need to switch over to, I need to push this to, I guess not. Okay, I guess that's not going to happen. We are going to have to commit to this branch. We'll be merging back into V11 anyway, so I guess no harm done there. Okay, Now, let's go, since we have confirmed that it is working, we'll move on to what we were going to work on in the first place, which is the statistics system. So, our current structure with these, I already had that open. With the current structure of Composr CMS statistics system is, oh, I guess I already did modify it on my test install. So this is the new structure. So we're just going to have a timestamp, the bucket, and the key. Previously, we had things like the bucket, time interval, time index, pivot, things like that, and then key, and then value. And we're not going to do that. So what we need to do, I'm going to pull up the first admin stats module, and we're going to use that as template for our modifications. So what we need to do, we don't need the dump data buckets if necessary anymore. We're going to be changing this function. Actually, what I could do, can I do, I could mass replace, search and replace, but it's gonna leave a blank line if I do that. So we'll have to do this manually, but I can at least pull it up in the search and we can just quickly go through and clear all this out. So we don't need this anymore because we're going to create a new method which we are going to replace. So we assigned data point values to a variable. And then we use dump data buckets if necessary to dump them into the database. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to stick with, we're going to create a new method that keeps track of data points and then does the dumping automatically into the database when necessary. And it will do it in batches. You'll see what I mean momentarily by what I said after we take our streaming break, because we are reaching the top of the hour. So let's get rid of all of these. And save all. All right. We will go ahead and get started with our changes here momentarily, but we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and take a... Oh, hello there, Ferret Faucet. How are you doing today? Welcome to the stream. We're not working on pinball today, but we are working on a piece of software that I have been helping to maintain. Oop, wrong website. It's called Composr CMS, and it's basically a piece of software that allows you to create and host a website on your own server. It's a free open source program. It has a lot of features, and it's written in PHP. So today, we're working on fixing some issues with the statistics system. So the statistics are basically analytics. So like you can track a whole lot of different like demographics and things that happen on your website and things like that. And we're trying to fix some issues with out the memory errors and things like that have been happening. So that's what we're doing today. But we are at the top of the hour, so I'm going to take a quick 4-ish minute break. And when we come back, we'll be streaming for about another hour on our development. So everybody stick around, and we'll be right back.
In most FPS video games such as Counter-Strike, shooting which part of the body does the highest damage? Type 1 in the chat to vote, chest. Type 2 in the chat to vote, leg. Type 3 in the chat to vote, head. Type 4 in the chat to vote, arm. Seconds left to submit your answer. Time is up. The correct answer was head.
Mountains are located on the border of which two countries? Type 1 in the chat to vote, Italy and Switzerland. Type 2 in the chat to vote, Norway and Sweden. Type 3 in the chat to vote, France and Spain. Type 4 in the chat to vote, Russia and Ukraine. 10 seconds left to submit your answer. Time is up. The correct answer was France and Spain.
Hello, welcome back to our Composr CMS development stream. Ignore the now playing down there at the bottom. What we're actually playing right now is the lo-fi generator. If you like it, you could go to lofigenerator.com. It's actually pretty cool. So what it does is it takes a lot of different instrument stems or little recordings of instruments, and it plays them. It uses JavaScript to piece them together via music theory. So the author talks about it a little bit. I'm not sure. There it is. So if you click this, you could get the information about how it works under About Contact. And it's really cool. It's a nice little background music generator if you want to use something that is allowed to be used on your stream. The author talks about that. You are allowed to use it on stream as long as you're like talking on top of it, of course. But what's nice is that it's content ID free, so you won't get copyright flagged for using it on YouTube or Twitch. And it's not artificial intelligence either. Like I said, it's completely JavaScript driven. It's just JavaScript selecting different instrument stems, changing their pitches and things like that around, using different algorithms and things like that based off of music theory, and creating a nice lo-fi track for you. Alright, so we're going to get back into our development. We're going to be working on the statistics system. So, like I said, we are modifying how we store statistics in order to hopefully reduce the amount of storage that we are taking in the database for said statistics. So we're kind of going to be looking through this and doing it. We're going to be kind of working through the structure as we go through the hook. So what we first need to analyze is how we're doing it now. So the way that we do it now, I'm actually in the wrong function. The way that we do it now is we do our database query up here, and then we loop through each date pivot, and we determine we store the data in each pivot interval, pivot value, and that is where we're getting those big database tables. So we're not going to do that. This is actually also going to reduce the amount of calculation complexity, because we're not going to have we're going to be eliminating one of the for each loops basically. So we don't need to do pivots with this new system. So we're just going to loop through each of these queries in batches. We get the timestamp. I'm not sure why we ever used time zone time. That shouldn't be the case. Okay. So what we do is we don't even need p-pivot interval or p-pivot time anymore. We don't need that for each loop anymore. We're going to create a new method. And I think we're going to call it so this is a stats provider hook. This dot we'll do save stat or something like that maybe. So to do that, we are going to need some parameters. The first parameter is going to be the name of the bucket. The second parameter needs to be timestamp. And then the third parameter needs to be an array of keys. And I think that's all that there is to it. That's all that we need to do. So we're going to modify this function now, this old function, based off of that criteria. So save stat. We're going to make this null, and you'll see why we're allowing a null parameter for bucket momentarily. Timestamp is also going to be nullable. And we're actually going to provide a default for timestamp. And same for keys. All right, so what we're going to do let's see, we need to modify our PHP docs. So save a data point into the statistics database. This tries to be efficient by not actually saving into the date by doing inserts in the batches. Now we specify our parameters. The first one, ID text, nullable. The bucket in which the data point belongs, and we have to define what null means. Null, we are not saving a new data point. Insert what we have, dump what we have in memory into the database. Next, our timestamp. Oh, I forgot to put the parameter name. The date and time at which this action occurred. No, this is a flat. This is flat timeless data. Next, keys. This is array keys. List of keys defining this data point. This is structural. Wow, I can't spell. Structural. With the first keys being supersets of the hierarchies being supersets of the oh, but this is going to be ambiguous because 0 is technically like, even though it's first in the array, it's numerically the lowest. In supersets of the higher numeric keys. All right, I guess that's the best way to say it. So check memory on this data buckets, which, by the way, I want to do a quick search on this variable. We do still need it, but I want to make sure that we're not doing anything with it anywhere else. It doesn't look like we are, so that's good. Is data buckets? It is already initialized to empty array. That's good. Okay, cool. All right, so we don't need to do any prior maintenance. Should dump is okay, so we don't have force anymore. This is actually bucket is equal to null. We'll modify this if we'll modify this eventually, but if timestamp is equal to null, that's our flat data. And we're not rebuilding structure of data buckets. We're simply emptying it back into an empty array. Now, actually, now that I think about it, it might be better to initialize data buckets to null. And there's a reason for this. It has to do with how you had to structure batch SQL queries. So this would get set to null as well after the dump. But first, let's check if data buckets is not set, then we have to initialize a structure. And the way that works is the structure has to be equal to the structure of the table, the database table. And we have, what was it? P date and time, P bucket, and P key. And the way that this works is when we want to do an insert, each entry in the array lines up. The indexes of each array line up with a particular row. So you got, the first index of each array is a row. The second index is the next row, and so on and so forth. That's how it works. So now let's put our data in, let's see. So we initialize the structure. Then we insert the data. So P date and time. P bucket. Oh, this needs to have a control to make sure that the bucket is not equal to null. If it is null, we're not actually inserting anything. And then P key. This is where we need to flatten the data. So we use flatten data buckets. And we might have to modify that function as well. Let me see, flatten data. Flatten data buckets. So we got the flattened array passed by reference. Current working data, current depth, and the current key. Return is equal to current structure. Current structure implode on the current key. Okay, I can't remember how I did this. So flatten becomes an array of key value. Aha. So maybe we do need the p-value. Probably be good if we did have a p-value. And we'll default it to 1 so that we don't have to specify it all the time. The number of occurrences of this data point at this specific time. Okay, so we need to modify our structure a little bit. So we go into our upgrade the code. For the statistics system, we need a p-value. That processed. We'll make p date and time nullable. That way we don't need stats. We don't need a separate stats preprocessed flat table anymore. Actually, do we? No, we don't. We could just, okay. I had to think there a little bit. All right. P bucket to p date and time. Let's see. Let's think about how we would query this. We would definitely query by bucket. We would do a where clause on the p date and time as well. But that would be in combination with p bucket. We wouldn't usually just search for all records based off of p date and time. Would we search? But p key could make the key a little too long, or the index a little too long. Yeah, and we wouldn't normally search by key anyway, now that I think about it. So Just those two indexes should be fine. Now we need to modify the upgrade code for the module, the statistics module. Let's see. Stats, create the stats preprocess. Here's where we delete the tables. Okay, here's where our creation happens. So we can replace this code with our new code. Save. And what's nice is since we got this handy dandy tool, hopefully PowerShell remembers. It does remember, nice. Since we have this handy dandy command line tool now to run Upgrader, but we could just do the same thing that we did earlier when we were testing it. We can trick Composr into thinking we have version 11 of the stats module installed. That way it would trigger an upgrade and adjust our database. Alright, now we should no longer have the stats preprocessed flat table. We should just have stats preprocessed. And there it is, we should have p-value. We do. Let's make sure p-date and time is nullable. It is. So our structure is the way that we want it. Nice. Okay, now let's go back to working on this. So now we need to put our p-value. As well. So we into memory. Okay, so memory get the use. But then we're going to do a different count method here. We're going to base it off of and we'll just do p-key. And we want to do batch inserts. Well, we need to calculate this. The standard, like on, we tried to accommodate the legacy installs of MySQL the best we can, right? So, yeah, Livinity agrees. I saw that head nod there. That was funny. So, what we need to do, we need to think the average setting for MySQL in older servers in terms of the maximum query size is 64 kilobits. So, p-date and time, that's usually what, 11 bytes or 11? Yeah, 11 bytes. We'll say 12 just to be on the safe side. P-bucket can go up to 80, key can go up to 256, and the value can go up to 12. So we need to add these up. We get 360, that's a nice number. So what we need to do now is take 64 kilobytes, divide that by 360 bytes, and we get about 182 records. 182 if we maxed out on each of the column sizes. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll put it at 150 to be on the safe side. So about the 150 records, that's when we'll trigger a dump, and a batch insert into the database. So flat data operates on replacement. We don't use deltas anymore, so we don't need to talk about deltas. All right, we don't do that. Okay, so this is all old data. So what we need to do, we need to figure out how to process key first, because this is an array. Well, key is an array, and we need to flatten it. So for each flatten is key value. Where's value coming from? We have to flatten it based off of data. No, we don't. No, wait. We don't need to flatten data buckets anymore. What am I thinking? We could just do this. Implode. Put in our double pipe delimiter. Key. Plural. And that's all there is to it. What was I thinking? We don't need to do anything fancy because we're putting each key in as a, you know, like that. Yeah, we don't need to do anything with PK. Now, what I do want to do for efficiency, let's do an in-array check on PK. Create the variable flatten the key. We're going to check to see if flatten key is already in this. And if the date and time is also in this. If both are the case, then we are not going to add. Bucket also has to be in there. Wait a minute. Ooh, but this could get tricky because they could be in different, they could match different indexes. That's going to get too complicated. We'll just, if there's a duplicate, there's a duplicate. It's not going to hurt much. It's going to take too much, it's going to take more CPU use trying to do complex figuring out than it would just dealing with duplicate rows. All right, so we'll leave that alone. So we have our flattened key. We'll revert. Okay, but so we have our flattened key, we have our data, we want to save it into the database. So we want to replace the data. We don't use PIDs anymore. So what we do p date and time would be empty, but p bucket would not. But in theory, for a flat database, there would only be one row per bucket. There would never be more than one row. Oh wait. No, I may be wrong there. I am wrong, because there could be multiple keys. So we can't simply dump or delete. We'll have to do a where on the keys. Okay. So what we need to do first is we need to delete all of the records that we are about to insert where the P bucket matches something and the P key matches it. Now luckily, I had recently modified the API of the ORM, I guess you would call it, of Composr CMS, so that they can support an array within the where clause. And what that would trigger is where blank in and then a superset of data, instead of having to do a whole bunch of different, instead of having to do a for each loop and trigger a separate query delete on every single thing that we want to delete, we could just do one simple delete query. It's nice. So we access the site database object, we trigger query delete, and we want to delete from stats preprocessed. That's preprocessed. Where the pivot is in. Oh, I'm sorry, P bucket. I'm thinking of the database structure. Is equal to any values within this array. Oh, hang on. I got to think here. This might not work either. Because what's going to happen is, let's say if we have P bucket A, B, C, and then we have P key, D, E, and F. We want it to line up. So we want to match A and D, but not E or F. B and E, but not D or F. C and F, but not D or E. But if we do an in clause, what's going to happen? It's going to delete D, E, and F if it matches A. Wait. Yeah. Because it just checks to make sure, it just checks to see if P bucket and P key is in one of the items that are in the, it's not a mapping, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, so yeah, that's not going to work. We do have to we'll have to go through the for each loop, unfortunately. we know for certain that the indexes are going to line up. So it's fine if we do it like this. Let's do a quick check. We need to confirm that the date and time is null. If it's not null, then this is not flat data, so we don't want to delete it. Wait. Yeah, that's what we want to do. Hold on, flat timestamp. No, wait. Because this could have a mix of flat and not flat data. So we can't do that either. This has to come out and be on its own for each loop. We loop through. If the data bucket's p-date and time is null, then we continue. But then we need to do then I think we need to, do we need to? Yeah, then we need to delete it. So we delete where p bucket is equal to the bucket, and the p key is it's going to be this index I. Well, except for it's going to be p key instead of p date and time. And to be on the safe side, p date and time needs to be null. Don't delete anything that's not null. So we delete the old value, and then it's going to later get in, the new values later going to get inserted. Okay. Luckily, we don't need to do most of this. We can pretty much get rid of all of that code and just deal with query insert. And all we have to do is this data buckets. And then this is already in the structure that it needs to be in to batch insert the records into the database. And then we set data buckets to null. We garbage collect. And that's the end of that. So we insert the data into memory, and then we check memory used, dump it to database if we determine that we should do so. If bucket is equal to null, that would trigger. I'm going to add in an additional clause here. We need to make sure that there's actually at least one thing that we want to insert. If there isn't, then we don't want to do anything. So that should be it for save stat. Now we don't need flattened data buckets anymore, so we can get rid of this function. And I believe there's like a PID function somewhere. We can get rid of this one as well. We don't need that anymore because we're not, that was also inefficient. So I was trying to hash together some of the data within a row in order to make it faster to find it, to merge in when we're doing deltas, but we're not doing deltas anymore. Okay. So we have our structure of the save stat function situated. So in theory, that should be what we run on. Once again, we could largely simplify this. We don't need the for each loop. So we can, or the pivot information. So we can get rid of that. See, a lot of this we don't need either. We just simply need save stat, action log activity in this case. And then type is our only key. And we could get rid of this. And then action log growth, it looks like type is our only key. We simplify. And there we go. And that continues. All right. And then we have the next section down here. So we do a query here for moderator logs. We get the timestamp. We don't need to convert it. We do run should skip type though. Take it out of the data pivots for each loop. We're not doing pivots anymore. Let's see, this is action log activity. And this is action log of growth. Much simpler. But it is going to complicate generate final data because we're going to have to deal with, we're going to have to calculate pivot times. That's something that I think I'm going to do in a different stream because we're only going to be streaming for about 10 more minutes or so. So that's essentially what we're doing, our simplified structure. And then what's going to happen is that data is going to be stored into the database. We have, instead of our blocks of time for the graphs, pre-processed for us in the database, which results in a much larger table. They're just dumped in there with a timestamp. So what we'll have to do is when we do process the graph, generate final data, we're going to have to calculate our pivot range. And we will have to query time range on that. So we take the pivot lower end of the timestamp and the higher end of the timestamp and create a where clause to create a range so that we query for the specific data points that happen within that time range. It shouldn't be too difficult though to do. Fairly easy. But like I said, we'll do that on another stream. Let's see if we have time to work on banners here. Yeah, this is a fairly easy one, so we'll go ahead and do banners. So again, let's see. We don't need to get server time zone anymore. We don't need to get pivots anymore. We could get rid of a TZ time call. We do need to geolocate the IP. We don't need to do pivots anymore. We just simply do a safe stat, and then we do banner clicks as our bucket, and this has banner and country as the keys. I can't type. Actually, let me modify the PHP doc here. Make sure that the keys does not exceed 255 characters. A double pipe delimiter is placed between each key. And there's a reason why that this is only 255 characters and I'm not using long text. And part of that is it makes it easier on the database to process and search and reduces the risk about the memory errors. And I highly doubt that we would ever have a stat that would exceed 255 characters in terms of its key structure. So that's the only one for banners. See if we have time to, we might be able to get through CNS forum. So this one, we do query up here. We don't need to get time zone anymore. We don't need to get pivots. We have timestamp here. We skip the null ones. Oh, that's interesting. What do we... I didn't know that there was a nullable. I guess you had to because you can't put it on the graph if you don't know what time it is. So if the forum ID is null, then this is a private topic, which makes sense. So you put it in the private topics bucket. And there is no key. And then we have public topics down here. All right, now we go down here, and then we process the actual posts, forum posts. Get rid of our, we have private posts and public posts. All right, the next, so this calculates poll votes. So again, we don't need to convert time. We don't want to convert to time zone. We get rid of the for loop, and then this is just topic poll votes. It doesn't look like this has any key either. It's just a cumulative tally of all of the votes that have occurred on topic polls. All right, I think we'll go ahead and leave off there for today's stream. So if you want to check out the Composr CMS and give it a try, you can go to composr.app and you can download version 11, which is in beta right now from that site. If you want to use a stable version, you can go to compo.sr to download the version 10. Now note, because compo.sr is UK based, they had to make the site to read only because of UK Online Safety Act. So all of the community stuff happens on composr.app. So if you want to talk with other Composr users or get help or submit tracker, like bug reports, things like that, you will go to composr.app. So it's a free and open source piece of software to help you create and run a website. And there are a lot of built-in features that you can use. Very handy if you don't like the complexity of WordPress or other Drupal and so on and so forth. Things where you have to mesh together a whole bunch of components to get it to do what you want. And Composr might be what you want to use. It's also really nice because it works on old servers typically, so it's very resource efficient as well. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I do not have an official schedule for the month of March or April. I will stream when I can stream. It'll usually be 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at night when I do stream. It's just a matter of when. Hopefully I will try and aim for 1 to 2 times per week, but it really depends on my work situation and my financial situation and so on and so forth. Hopefully we'll get back onto a regular schedule in May. It's not looking promising because of tax season, so I'll probably be on this this unofficial, I don't have a schedule type deal. It'll probably be that way until June at least. Be sure to check out my Discord at orqata.live/Discord. That's where I give updates. That's where you could get updates as to changes in my schedule or when I decide to stream, things like that. And you can also talk with me. Check out my regular website at orqata.live to learn more about me and the types of streams that I do. You could also learn about the bat colonies, what they are, what they mean, the stream boss, the redeems that you can do on my channel, things like that. If you enjoy what you see, consider leaving me a donation on Stripe. Just go to orqata.live/donate and that will redirect you to Stripe. Or you can subscribe to Discord if you want to make a monthly contribution. The contributions will immensely help and will help me stream more regularly. You'll also get perks for that. With that being said, thank you everybody for tuning into today's stream. I am going to sign off now. Until next time, everyone take care.